just like that, it's time for our weekly roundup of all the things Lady just ain't gonna do this week. Number one, any ifs, ands, or buts about Ukraine. Now look, the conflict continues, and Russia is upping the ante with its invasion of Ukraine, including attacks on a nuclear facility and attacks on a maternity hospital. It is truly heartbreaking as the conflict escalates, and there are lots and lots and lots and lots of people who are caught in the middle. There was also a lot of outrage this week, in particular when reports were released about how African migrants were being treated at the borders. African migrants who were trying to escape the conflict in Ukraine, with Black people from throughout the diaspora being denied access to trains and other forms of transportation that were leaving the country. Now, in response, some have commented that we shouldn't support Ukraine, especially as Black people. Now, let me start off my comments with this. I am not at all a foreign policy expert. I'm really not. And I do want to say that if we use the litmus test of how a place treats Black people for whether or not we support their right to not be bombed and targeted for extinction, ain't nowhere and no peoples we would support. That's a fucking fact. I mean, you think Colombia treats Black people better? How about France? How about Sweden or Norway, the neutral countries? I mean, Black people are treated like shit pretty much everywhere we are. And don't use the continent of Mother Africa as an exception because we know how shit is going on there too. My point here is this. The way African migrants are being treated in Ukraine and frankly throughout the fucking world is atrocious. And we can say that at the same time we decry the invasion of Ukraine by fascist forces aligned with people like Donald Trump and his crew. You don't get down with fascism because racism is out here doing its typical shit. That just don't even make sense, fam. I'm not for bombing or any more demonstrations of this whack-ass military-industrial complex. I am not for xenophobia and racism of any type. And if we keeping it all the way real, I'm not for empire, period. And unfortunately, all of those things are happening in the same location, just like here in the United States. Now, I'd encourage you to look sideways at any position that says, I'm going to support the fascists because I'm turned up about the way Ukraine treats Black migrants from the diaspora. I mean, look, I know people be saying shit like the enemy of my enemy is my friend and shit, but look, this ain't the right situation to apply that shit to. Empire is our enemy, plain and simple. And inside empires, you're going to have fucked up dynamics. That's just a fact. Other things Lady just ain't gonna do this week. Can we free Brittney Griner? Speaking of empires, we learned this week that Russia has effectively taken a prisoner of war, and she's a Black queer woman. Brittney Griner plays in the WNBA for the Phoenix Mercury and is a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. Griner was detained in February for allegedly carrying vape pen cartridges containing hashish oil, and hashish oil is an illegal substance in Russia. However, there is speculation that this was really more of a political play in the strained dynamics between Russia and the United States than it was about drugs. Griner also played ball for the Russian women's basketball team, as many WNBA players do because they get paid more to play abroad than they do here at home. Now, we have talked about this on this show with our fam, Alicia Clarendon, and how the Players Association was in negotiations with the WNBA over this very thing, pay equity. It's more likely that the WNBA hasn't been saying a ton about this because they're trying to approach the situation delicately. With strained relationships already between our two countries, the fact that Griner is openly gay, also not looked favorably upon by Big Daddy P, and the fact that we're on the brink of World War III, I mean, my sense is that folk are trying to figure out what to do without pouring gas on top of flames that were already too damn high for most of our liking. But the fact remains, even without all this bullshit happening, Russia don't be playing no games, honey, when it comes to disappearing people for basic shit. Now, we will keep you posted on what's happening and what you can do about it, just as soon as we figure it out too. Oh, Jesus. Other things Lady just ain't gonna do this week. Ryan Coogler getting arrested for trying to get his own damn money. Now, I mean, really, what the fuck are we even doing here? Ryan Coogler was arrested this week in Atlanta, Georgia, on suspicion of being a bank robber. Now, y'all got to hear this shit. So, bruh goes into the bank because he's trying to withdraw some money, like $12,000 worth of money. He goes up to the teller and he slides the teller a note and he says he would like them to be discreet when they're giving him his money. Most likely because he's not trying to get robbed. I mean, bruh's from Oakland. He know what the deal is. So bruh goes to the teller, slips them a note like, please don't be counting this shit out loud. And basically the teller asks bruh for his ID and his card, which he provides to verify his identity. And still, the teller feels like it's suspicious. So the teller flags it as a high-risk transaction and then flags a manager to come to the window. And long story short, child, here come the police to arrest bruh. Now, some of you are out here talking about how unfairly the teller is being treated. She's a Black woman who was pregnant. Now, the teller said she just saw the ID was from California and that he was passing her a note to give him $12,000 discreetly, and that even though her verification of his ID and account and that the nigga had enough money to cover the transaction was all legit, she still didn't feel safe. Now, look, I'm all for trusting your instincts and all that. I really am. But we also have to remember that our instincts are also shaped by this fucked up society. They detained Coogler, his driver, and a woman who was also in the car waiting outside when this all went down. Now, needless to say, there were much better ways of handling this. The teller was afraid the bank was being robbed, and she's pregnant, so you could see why she might be a little extra sensitive in this situation. Ryan Coogler, the director of one of the most successful movies of the decade, especially amongst Black people, was also concerned about getting robbed. And lo and behold, we have all the contradictions of what it's like to be Black in motherfucking America. Okay, let's get into, you guessed it, ladies' love notes. Okay, wow. Even these words are pretty surreal for me to speak. But for now, this is my last dispatch from the place that has raised me my whole life, the Yay area, and the place that has raised me for the last 18 years, the town. Whew. There are not really any words to describe how much love I have for the Bay. I have fallen in and out of love in this place. I've had many firsts in the Bay. Learned how to survive in the Bay. Learned how to organize in the Bay. The Bay flows through my veins. And because it does, I know I will never really leave here. I'll just be bringing the Bay with me wherever I go, because that's how we do anyways. Now, I've spent the last few weeks really trying to capture every single moment and to be present for all the things I love about being here and being from here. I know the nooks and crannies of this place. I love that I can always run into people I know whenever I leave the house, no matter where in the Bay I live. I love that we literally have our own language here. I love watching sunsets that dip below the water here. I love being close to the water here. I love that you can recognize people from the Bay wherever you go. We really do have something special here. And the truth is, as much as I love this place, like really, really, really love this place and so many people in it, the time has come for me to live my life outside of it. I have traveled all over the world, and yet I've never lived outside of California. I always thought people who left here were bananas, but now I get it. As much as I love this place, the Bay ain't what it used to be. All the reasons I love this place were also attractive to other folks seeking something here. I used to love how weird the Bay was. Now it's becoming more and more homogenous. If I see another beer garden or go to another bar that takes 18 hours to make an artisanal cocktail, I'm going to scream. If I hear one more person complain about how dangerous it is here or turn up because it's too loud, I'm a snap. The Bay is special because from its very beginning, it was built by people trying to innovate. But it has always been a struggle here between that colonizing kind of innovation and the innovation of what people do to survive and have some fucking joy along the way. From sideshows to the random get hyphy in the street to the hole-in-wall restaurants with the Michelin stars, That's what makes us great. But again, we're in a struggle between Columbusing and figuring out how we get by. And right now, the people who are trying to get by, we losing. Now, don't get me wrong. Change is inevitable and it is constant. And everything is always changing. And I'm not somebody who believes that change is a bad thing. The change happening here isn't enough to drive me away. It's the change happening inside of me that's calling me towards something different. And the change happening around me is adding oxygen to that fire. The past few years have been full of every kind of change for me one could possibly imagine. And the real serious kind of change. Like grappling with the next steps in my life kind of change. The end of my romantic relationship. The pandemic and how it changed my relationship to myself. Saying yes to everything that scared the shit out of me because in my mother dying, I realized just how fleeting time actually is. Meeting someone I was super into and yet facing all the barriers possible has also encouraged me to ask myself, am I really going to be with somebody who embodies all the patterns of my father? Or am I really serious about changing those patterns? Anyways, let me not get into all that because that's a whole other story, child. But change has been my middle name these last few years. Now, if I'm being honest, super honest, I never dreamt of my wedding as a little girl, but I did always imagine that I would be this independent woman with my own shit going on and doing my own shit on my own terms. And when that opportunity afforded itself to me, I had to say yes to that too. I did shit that scared me, and I bought a house in a completely different state on the other side of the country, where most of my family on my mom's side lives now. I told y'all, I'm pretty much first-generation city girl. There is something else calling me. Now, the last time I felt this way was when I left my organization of 10 years to be a small fish in a big ocean. A few months later, Black Lives Matter was born. I'm going to go be a small fish in a big ocean again, and I'm excited for what that might bring. So yes, we are dealing with Rona and reconstruction, but this time it's the reconstruction of Miss Garza 2.0. I would say I don't believe in saying goodbyes, but that would be a fucking lie because I'm a Capricorn and we are quick to cut shit off, honey, especially if you piss us off. But one thing I will never say goodbye to is Oakland. Let's just make it a see you later. Wish me luck on this new adventure. Who knows? You might just see me swimming right past you, looking for my next challenge. In the meantime, we will continue to bring you all of the real and none of the fake from this little podcast that can and does. But now, instead of maybe finding me at Van Cleef, imagine me on my porch swing, sipping tequila and plotting my next move. I love you, Oakland. Signing off from here for now.